Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Crashy, and today I wanted to run through a practice game and show you kind of the timings guide of the game, or talk about the major objectives and what you need to be focusing on for a game. Now, for a lot of y'all, this will probably be, simple information, but there are a lot of new players, and I do think that it's important for us to talk about it. So the game's already been going on for 30 seconds, but essentially, let's go through some of the phases of the game. You want to start off in laning phase. I'm already obviously just going to get straight there, and I have no cooldowns on it. I'll just blow through this. But essentially, in the early game, you want to go through this early phase, and you want to contest the neutral farm. This is that mid core fish here. Down here, it will be the bottom Audino that spawns there that I can't see. You want to be contesting this neutral farm. This is a general outline for the game. So you want to farm your stuff as well. Obviously, this is very simple information. And at 8:50 on the clock, so you see 5 seconds, you want to already be healthy and ready for the 850 Bs. 850 Bs spawn you and your jungler, if the jungler picks your lane, but you and your laning partner, or you should be looking to contest this farm here. Now, at 8:45, the mid-core fish are going to spawn. This is contested farm, so at me as a jungler, I usually will try to go for this, but if you as a laner see that this is up, you can go for this farm as well. Now, something important to keep in mind is that the bees are on a 1:30 timer, minute and 30 timer. The lane minions, so the Audinos and the Apoms, are on a 1-minute timer. So keep that in mind as you continue with the early game. At 9 minutes, this core fish will spawn, so I kind of was a little behind to show that. But at 9 minutes, you can get that core fish before the 850 Bs if you have time. If not, you can get it later. But ultimately, you want to be knowing a lot of this early game information, and it's mostly the same on the bot lane, just slightly different camps. So these camps are starting to come back up now, and you can obviously kill those on cooldown, but the next set of Bs are going to be the 720 Bs. Now, as a top laner, you either have to make the decision to rotate down early, which I would say anywhere between like 745, 750 is a good time, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate down, but the 720 Bs will spawn in top lane. So some top laners will stay, and some will go bot. I think it's situational, but it is an option. Not going to talk about the outline of the game too much there, but the 720 Bs will spawn at 720. So we're actually I'm going to show y'all. Let's wipe these out really quickly. So just pretend these weren't here, and let's go ahead and get this out of the way as well. This is probably what the lane would look like. Same thing. You're going to be wanting to be ready for this. 720 Bs spawn. All right, so you and your team will fight for these Bs. This is, again, general outline. At this point, the jungler should probably be down here, and this is the first major objective. At 7 minutes, Dreadnought and Rotom will spawn. Now, Dreadnought is the true objective. It's one of the major objectives. First Dreadnought in particular is incredibly important. So Dreadnought spawns, you and your team will probably spend some time fighting for this. Ultimately, it's incredibly important because you want to be getting a lot of this experience. So, you and your team get this. And then I don't need to talk about how the follow-up happens. Usually you can dive this tower, maybe you can get it, or maybe someone goes top lane, or, you and your team go top lane, someone stayed top lane. There's all different kinds of variable change here, but the general outline of the early game is, like I said, a minute and a half for the Bs, so we know the next Bs will be spawning at 5:50 on the clock, and the general outline for the respawn timers of Dreadnought and Rotom is going to be 2 minutes. Now, usually you will have the teams potentially rotate to the top lane, and this is where a lot more variable change starts to happen because the game has already been in motion. There's a lot of moving parts, but essentially you just need to know these timers. It's really, really important to know that. I do think that this kind of information is something that needs to be spread around, and this is the general outline. Like I said, there's still so much room for different things to be done. But again, let's go ahead and get in bottom lane really quickly. And so look, 550 Bs, boom, every single time. You know where they're going to be. Farming in this game is incredibly important. Knowing what you need to be killing, when you need to be there, is incredibly important, and I wanted to talk about that. Now, a little bit of extra information as far as sharing this video out there and trying to, disseminate really important information. These 4 camps right here, the core fish, the Ludicolo, and the Bouffalant, these 4 camps are not to be touched by anyone but the jungler in the first 3 minutes. That's the general outline. There may be teams that do it a little bit differently. I don't think they do. If anything, teams are leaving lane experience for junglers and even the outside crab for junglers. But the general outline is the first 3 minutes of the game, you do not want to touch these camps. Now, In order to give some context, the jungler has an opportunity to potentially get level 9 or just be really strong going into the first Dreadnought, so you want to have the jungler getting as much experience as possible. So that's why you don't want to take these buffs away. Now, I do have the buffs on, and I want to show you right here that you have the orange buff or the red buff is when the Pokemon's attack hit, they decrease the opposing Pokemon's move speed for a short time. That's really good to have on your jungler, or really anyone. And then the blue buff, the purple buff or the blue buff is when the Pokemon's attack hit a wild Pokemon with low remaining HP, they deal increased damage. This is an incredibly important buff for the jungler to have, so you don't want to steal these buffs away. You don't want to take this farm away from your jungler. Usually, again, in terms of the general outline for the game, after the first 3 minutes, after that first Dreadnought, it kind of opens up. In competitive play, you're still going to see the teams giving that experience and those buffs to the jungler, but in solo queue, at very least, the general outline, the general rule of thumb should be after the first 3 minutes, all of these camps are kind of a free-for-all. You can go wherever. And the rest of the game, really, after like the first 3 minutes, after maybe like the halfway point, is all just about reacting to the game. But I wanted to share that general outline because I want people to really know what they're getting into. So I'm going to go ahead and end this game, and I'll probably make a cut, and I'm going to go through an early game like normal to kind of illustrate what it looks like. So let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, so we're back and we're loading into a game. Now, keep in mind, I am playing solo, so I don't have like a lane partner to really help me out. But I'm going to show you kind of what an early game would look like and give some context to, what you should expect, and hopefully can use this information to apply to your games to have a strong understanding of where to be in the early game. So, playing some Cramorant, going to use my first ability on the first Aipom. We're going to take that down as my ability is coming back. I'm going to go ahead and save it and kill this one. You would usually have a teammate here, so you would get some good damage. This would probably be dead by now, and then I'm going to use my second ability, and I should have put it more forward, but again, just trying to kill things like I can. And you want to be killing this with purpose, but you also want to be moving toward the center, because this is contested. You and your teammate should fight over this kind of experience, and again, this is just regular 2-2 lane. You want to fight over this experience. In general, this is a very basic outline for the game, and then you want to peel back and get your experience. So I'm going to be a little ahead because I'm getting all this solo, but like I said, I just want to illustrate what a game would actually look like, at least to some degree, in terms of like a general outline. All right, so we've gotten all of our side farm now, and now we are waiting on the clock. 8:50 is the first major objective, but we do know that the outside lane crab spawns at 9 minutes, so hypothetically, if we weren't busy or worried about fighting or anything, I could go ahead and get that. I don't know why my Hurricane targeted there. And then you want to be ready, healthy, and here for the 850 Bs. 850 Bs are going to spawn. You're going to want to take the spawn, the fight. You want to burst it, get as much of you as you can, fight over it, whatever the case may be, and you're good to go now. All right, cool. So during that, the 845 Corphish spawn. Now, as a laner, you usually don't see laners move up and get the Corphish, but if the jungler's not around, if this contestable farm is up, hey, I say go on ahead and try to get it. Any farm for you and your team that you can get, you definitely want to be doing so. Oh, you also have the mid Aldino. I didn't even think about that. Like, look at that. You see what I mean? Like, gotta be thinking about the full picture. I'm talking about just everything, and I let things slip. Mid Aldino has respawned. These Aldinos, again, 1 minute timer, they're going to be coming back, so this is much more important than the mid Corphish for sure, so you want to make sure you're getting your side farm. And again, the next major objective, or the next thing that you really need to be prepared for as a laner, is going to be the 720 Bs. So again, kind of a slow moment. You have some opportunities to farm, to potentially fight, get some poke damage, and again, it's much more action-packed because I'm just sitting in a dead, empty lobby right now, but there's really not a whole lot to do. You can get the next crab, and you're just farming. Again, first 3 minutes of the game, I refuse to touch jungle. You do not want to touch jungle. If you can get this just because it's not being taken, sure, go for it. But even then, that's low priority, these two crabs next to your lane. So 7:35 on the clock, movement should be happening, junglers should be moving around the map, and you should be getting ready for 720 Bs. During this time right here, you want to be healthy, you want to be safe, you don't want to be way over here fighting with like 4 seconds left. I don't want to be pushing over here. I need to be healthy and I need to be safe. So all right, 720 Bs are up. We're going to fight for that, get what we can, but again, stay healthy, stay safe, because not only are the 720 Bs up, but look at the clock on the map. That timer's coming up. We have Dreadnought coming up. This is where the subjectivity of the game and where the outline starts to break a little bit, and you start to play the game based on like variable changes and what's happening. So, okay, let's say hypothetically everything goes great. We're winning the fight, right? Like, cool, we're good. We can go for the Dreadnought. My team hard won the fight. We go for the Dreadnought. What happens after the Dreadnought is really dependent on how how the game is going, but we'll talk about that here in a second. And like I said, the general outline of the game is starting to kind of fade away, because yeah, you know, it just, things change. Not every game is exactly the same. So see if I can kill this. All right, so we kill this. Now here's something that could happen. You and your team hard stomp that, y'all full dive this, you dunk all the points in, you get it. Cool, awesome. After that, if you look at the map, what's the next major objective? Well, Rotom's on the map. Most likely it's still there. If not, then you don't have to rotate. You don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, you just want to farm. You know, you just want to farm, do what you can do. Get whatever farms on the map. If the Rotom's still up there, you and your team can rotate to the Rotom. But thinking about the timing of the map, look at the time, 6:05. Well, guess what? If there's nothing to do on the map, guess what I know is coming up? 550 Bs. So again, 1.5-minute timer. Lane minions, 1-minute timer. Rotom Dreadnought, 2-minute timer. And the Bs are on a 1.5-minute timer. So 550 Bs are up. Here we are. You know, they might be in a different position. It just depends on the game. This is where like some of that changes starts to matter. But again, this is what you want to be focusing on. And going forward with the rest of the game, it really just depends. But I want that early game information to really stick, because the early game in this game is incredibly important. And I know that there's still people that really don't have like that general outline of information. And I want this to potentially get shared out, potentially, you know, help people out and let them know what all these timers are, because it's incredibly important. You know, just talking about it again, you have lane minions to contested, to your side farm, to bat crab at 9 minutes, 850 Bs, you know, just some you know, 720 Bs. The next big follow up, other than the respawns, 1-minute timers for respawns, 720 Bs, 7-minute objective. You know, when it spawns, off lane Rotom, if it's still there, you and your team could potentially go for that. 550 Bs, they could be here, they could be back here, they could be over here, just depends on how the game is going. But that is a very general outline for the game, and things that you as a player in every single match should be looking to emphasize and focus on. So hopefully you got some good information out of this. Let me know in the comments down below if you feel like this is something you can share with a friend, maybe who hasn't really figured the game out or still struggling to kind of get that information. Again, some of the biggest things are like, when you know 850 Bs are coming up, you don't want to be way over here fighting, right? You want to be here, you want to be healthy, you want to be ready. You know, get that timing in your head. When people ask me, what tips do you have for solo queue? These are the tips. Know the game, understand the game incredibly well, be prepared for the game, be prepared for what you need to do and how to get ahead, which is by getting farm, winning fights, getting these objectives, and then closing out the game in the end game. So thank you so much for watching this. I definitely do appreciate it. Again, drop me a comment, let me know if you learned something or if you think that this could help somebody else. As always, be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone that you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.